is up? I'm Rick, the Fat Man GM. You may or may have not have heard of me babbling and rambling on a few of the YouTube channels and Facebook channels regarding to our hobby, role-playing games in general, tabletop games, wargaming, so on, etc. I have started back when I was in my early teens. I have well over 40 years worth of experience in this hobby that we love and share. And a big part of what I like to do is go back and revisit a lot of the stuff that I have and have accumulated in my gaming career, if you will. And everything from MERP, Starfleet, from FASA, a slew of Dungeons and Dragons and Shadowrun, Star Wars, etc., etc., etc. And I revisit these items individually, and hopefully to give some nostalgia for myself, to give you a little bit of an insight into some game system that you may or may not have heard of or may have not had the opportunity to play, and to remind those of us out there that do have them that these are quite viable and still entertaining today. So here we go. Alrighty, the Romulan War. This would be from the FASA Corporation and Star Trek, the role-playing game. It's one of the earlier supplements. I'm not exactly sure. They have copyrights in here, but I can't say if they're talking about the movies and the TV series. But the actual copyright for this item here, not clearly posted as it should be. The Romulan War. The thing about the Romulan period in Star Trek, especially in the older stuff, is there was so little material to go on. In the TV series, they tried to play him up as a mystery force. It's this great boogeyman, if you will. We've seen and learned far more about the Klingons than we ever do the Romulans. It's not until later generation TV series and movies that we see more of them, and through books and games and so on and so forth, we discover a little bit more, and they're fleshed out. So when this was created, a whole lot of things have changed since then. So this makes this a bit outdated dinosaur if you're going by modern canon. In the old days, it was quite sufficient to do what we wanted. It was based off of the TV series, what little there was. So in this case, while on a routine survey mission, the crew of the USS Sparon receives an urgent message from Starfleet Museum at Memory Alpha. The closest available ship, the Sparon's ordered to investigate attempted break-in in one of the museum's storerooms. Investigation leads to the planet Daran V, and a group of dissatisfied Starfleet veterans have voiced an opinion that much stronger measures should be taken against Federation enemies. The decisive action is needed when the museum reports the successful theft of a mothballed battleship, the USS Juggernaut, a relic of the Romulan War. If the ship was fitted with modern warp engines and other equipment, it would be a very potent vessel. Adventurers must find those responsible for the theft before the Juggernaut can be used against Starfleet. This adventure module also includes a separate book describing the Romulan War fought between the United Federation of Planets and the Romulan Star Empire. Now, if you go by the the Enterprise series, the Enterprise TV series, the Romulan War, as the current canon knows it, begins actually before the Federation's formally founded. It's because of the various groups that had to come together to fight the Romulan incursion, which was using robotic vessels, and it wasn't as not truly really a war. Right? I mean, if you really go to that aspect, it's not truly a war, but it was because of these incursions and this outside and other increasingly growing threats against these smaller space nations, if you will, star-going nations, that the formation of the Federation comes about. It's one of those things that's interesting to keep that in mind. So we look at the book itself. Context of the book, reports, editor's notes, social-political situation with the United Federation of Planets and other spacefaring governments. Okay, just a minute here. Gotta pause. Alright, too much pepper in my eggs this morning, I think. It just sneezes. Okay, edit note, include every minute detail, blah, blah, blah. We know that. So background information, development FTL communications, if you think about that, that was a very important ability to be able to commute over long distances in fairly short order, as opposed to using subspace communications, which in theory should take years to travel. It just is. It says here, message was transmitted via warp radio from here on Pluto to Terra using conventional frequency or amplitude modulations, i.e. regular radio to you and me. The signal would have taken about 7 hours, give or take a couple minutes to travel each way, but instead the message was transmitted, received on Earth, and a response sent back. A total elapsed time was 14 minutes. The result, though not unexpected, led to pandemonium. Scientists, researchers, military officers, and civilians alike were ecstatic. On this historic day, we entered another new technological era. Alright. The causes of war. The characteristics of the Romulan War. Summary adapted from the War-Torn Galaxy History of the Romulan War by John Gill. The United Nations planets had long been a long, proud history, which was not true. They were fairly new. The various planets might have, various member states might have, but not the Federation. Many hostile encounters, conflicts, skirmishes, battles, even wars were fought within its boundaries. Nevertheless, every situation is unique. Every war has its own characteristic features. There are several factors that make the Romulan War unlike any other conflict fought by the Federation races. Most significant items are summarized below. 1. The Romulan War was a full-scale conflict fought after the foundation of the United Federation. Technically, it was fought before, according to new canon. It was the first war in which Terrans fought in a unified alliance with other races, which is true. It was the first war in which warp-driven vessels built for the sole purpose of combat were used, which is also mostly true. Romulan War was the first war fought in interstellar space. First war for the for the humans to fight, yes. I imagine the Andorians and the Terralites and the Vulcans have all had more than their share. For Romulan conflict, space battles fought specific territorial objectives. 5. This was the only war in which beings from the two opposing governments never met personally, neither ship-to-ship encounters nor diplomatic negotiations. Yes and no. That's true. When for the most part, the Romulans didn't want to communicate with anybody other than themselves. They viewed everybody beneath them, more or less. This made a lot of interesting issues for the Federation, because they really did. It wasn't, that's where you see that shock in that original TV series when they're pursuing that Romulan cruiser, and they discover that the commander and the crew look a lot like a Vulcan. Everybody starts staring sideways at Spock, who's nonplussed about it. It was the first war large groups of hostile alien vessels entered Federation-controlled space. First time the Federation encountered a massive decentralized industrial civilization instead of one world or half dozen. Romulan Empire had several hundred planets. That's probably true. It was the only war which neither side could claim a significant victory. That was also true, more or less. It says Romulan War inflicted the highest percentage of fatalities among starfleet, includes the entire history of known space warfare. I can't say if that's true or not. Romulan War represented the first serious threat to the continued existence of the United Federation of Planets. Starfleet exploration and command autonomy. So the history, the background, UFP military background. A lot of it in a lot of different places. Romulan motivation for war. Extremely difficult to evaluate the Romulan's racial motivations for war because no direct contact with them have been made. Nevertheless, we can draw some conclusions by translating subspace communications and making other educated guesses. Future intelligence reports may change or radically contradict the suppositions made in this report, however. Based on all available information, the Romulan War became a territorial dispute in their spinward expansive territory of Romulan Empire claimed an area of space within the Federation sphere of influence and exploration. When the USS Atlantis unwittingly entered that portion of space, the Romulans attacked it. Simply put, it was a matter of Romulan expansion versus Federation exploration. Really, so the Federation wasn't expanding either? Yeah, okay. Just clever use of terms, right? Verbiage. The war... USS Atlas's final log entries from the USS Atlantis to the SS Diana. continue conflict with this a group of ships they weren't quite sure just what. It took a while before they realized that it was who the Romulans were and had a name for them. Even though the Vulcans knew more about the Romulans than they let on for many, many years. Talks about the various battles. Undeclared War continues, Part 1. Callous and premeditated destruction of the passenger liner SS Diana drastically affected the attitude of the general population within the Federation. Earlier attacks against freighters, warships, and unmanned transports had been accepted rather quietly. Although deplorable, such mishaps were considered part of price paid for creating interstellar community. Actually, a few people outside the government had even been aware of the growing problem. The situation changed when the Diana was destroyed. Public media called for action from every agency in the Federation's large and growing bureaucracy. This single event did more to shape the public opinion than any other reminds me of that big ship, the big passenger liner was sunk by the Germans in World War I that led the Americans to getting involved. There's some incident like that in World War II. It was World War I. It was one of them. I said here, long after another log piece period of feud. Some began to wonder if the last few years had only been a bad nightmare. The Diana Lives Foundation assured the public otherwise. Stardate 1/0011.21, the disaster at OSDO-4 proved the Federation correct. Outer sector defense outposts were in essence miniature service-based star bases built on small uninhabited planets in frontier areas. They provided some support services as their larger cousins for a fraction of the construction costs and personnel requirements. Anything should happen to such a basic crisis would not induce a critical material support services reduction to decentralize the field operation units, as one manual put it. In other words, we could afford to lose a few of them if push came to shove. So 3 Thronson-class cruisers, 4 Tushin-class destroyers, 2 Cavalry-class destroyers, an Assist-class warp tender, and the Gabuf-class armed transport were obliterated. The Romulans did not attack the base itself, probably because they mistook the equipment crates scattered around the bases for weapon emplacements. UFP, Special Organization, Organized Enemy, Undeclared War continues. There's a growing concern on Terra as well as among other Federation member worlds. Evidence continues pour in from the outlying sectors. The Romulans, as they are calling themselves, are not merely a large band of warring pirates seeking to attack and plunder randomly, so they appear to be a highly organized, intelligent, starfaring race, much like the humans, Vulcans, and other major Federation races. Their skill in combat tactics, the widespread ability, high technology, warships, and their overall ability to make the war support this conclusion. They speculate they may have colonized a number of worlds in their own region of space, wherever exactly that may be. In fact, the extent of their territory may be as large as ours, if not larger. This changes the entire complexion of the war for Starfleet command personnel. We are no longer fighting a localized, loosely organized scourge. Rather, we're up against an interstellar civilization existing along our borders, a civilization fully capable of widespread aggression and destruction. Which was true. Open warfare declared. The official war is opened, and more ships and resources are pushed towards the frontier. The Triangle Front. Alpha Omega B destroyed. Atrocity to attrition. One of the things that set the Romulans apart from, say, the Klingons is the fact that the Romulans had absolutely no qualms about killing everybody. Period. And it wasn't some misguided sense of genocide or this over amped up urge for battle such as Klingons often exhibit. It is a cold, calculated understanding that if we have nobody, we leave nothing behind, we have nothing to fear. And simple and straightforward. The Romulans have no idea, no need for people. They didn't, in their mind, they were not trying to subject races or conquer territory in that manner. They were quite happy with just eliminating the problem and then replacing them with their own people at some point. It's also meant they weren't big on taking prisoners. They didn't have a reason for it. Operation Golden Pheasant, the aftermath. Talks about combat, the aftermath. Nice little maps of just how little we knew, the Federation knew at the time of the war of the Romulans. It took years to learn what they did learn. Related issues, the mysterious Romulan race. Past few years, a number of ships and installations have been attacked by individuals calling themselves Romulans. There has been much discussion as to the nature of these undeniably vicious beings. They are intelligent enough to develop space travel, yet savage enough to destroy peaceful vessels without accepting surrender. Where do they come from? What do they want from us? Why do they refuse to surrender even when they're heavily outnumbered? Any evidence we have in the answer to these questions may help better understand the enemy. So they come down here. This is where this image comes to play. Finally, there's a question of the children's fables on Vulcan. There are a number of legends told to young children as a form of instruction. In some provinces of the world, the parable relates to the existence of a warlike being from faraway star looking very much like Vulcans. Although these stories serve only to broaden young Vulcans' conceptual horizon, they do lead me to wonder. So, truth is, the Vulcans know that the Romulans originally came from Vulcan, and we know that now too. Trade and commerce, Baker's world colony. Cited man as peace speech. And here, Dannon. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to address you on a matter of serious import, not only for ourselves but for the billions of individuals not inhabit the member planets of our interstellar community. I wish to propose a solution that may, although perhaps not satisfactory, all may lead to the return of peace in known space. Everyone will agree this war has been long and enormously expensive, both lives and resources. We need only to conjure the spirits of those who were killed at Delta 2, Delta 7, Omega B, or aboard the Diana. Although Starfleet has recently obtained several substantial military victories over Romulan enemies, particularly at the Merriman, and the war is far from being won. Secretary Cooper's presentation, which he graciously permitted me to cut short, proves my point. How much longer can we continue fighting? We are suffering hundreds of thousands of casualties, sending our most brilliant officers and crew members to their deaths in a vast cold space. Like the finest efforts of Starfleet Intelligence Command and other Starfleet personnel, we are no closer to fighting our Romulan homeworlds than in the days when we didn't know who the pirates were. Hopefully they will have no knowledge of our own worlds, but this does not mean we can continue slugging it out year after bloody year with the sounds of exploding starships filling the ears of our children and their children. In the name of sanity, this must not be. I'm not a blind pacifist seeking peace, blah blah blah. Provisions for the peace treaty. Concerns of both warring governments agree to peace. Cease all hostilities. Section 2 describes the exact astrophysical coordinates of the Romulan neutral zone. Section 3 establishes a bilateral sanction of the aforementioned neutral zone. All personnel, equipment, or resources belonging to either government must be removed from the neutral zone no later than blah, 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 blah. Then we go on to the ships of war. Creation of the Marine Corps Command. Romulan Starship Tactics. Federation Starship Tactics. Advances in military technology. Consequences for military shipbuilding theory. Post-war UFP Romulan relations. Social economic effects of the Romulan War. The timeline. It's always nice, nifty to have. There we go. The Romulan War.